falling for nobody else but you. You caught my eye, and I've got a feeling I'm falling.
Hi everybody, welcome to Cooking with Jean. I'm Jean Lanahan from Eastman Lobster and Grill. This is episode 7 of our cooking series. Today we're going to be cooking fish and parchment. Today we're going to cook some haddock in the parchment paper. The parchment paper is a great, it's an oven steaming technique. You could use aluminum foil, but I like the parchment paper. It makes for a nice little package to serve, individually. This also can be done a few hours ahead of time and kept in the fridge. But today we're just going to make something really simple. The options with this technique are pretty much endless, but let's just get on with what we're going to do here. We're going to cook some haddock with, this is almost an Italian style I'm kind of doing. It's zucchini, tomatoes, basil, a little white wine, some of our home spice. I'm going to add a little bit of grated cheese and some butter. Let me just show you a little bit of the technique. First thing I'm going to do is take our zucchini and diced tomatoes, minced tomatoes. I'm just going to add them to a mixing bowl. I like to spice every layer while we're cooking. I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil here. A dash of our house spice, which again has our salt and pepper, onion, garlic, parsley. Just need a little bit. I find that mixing this, the vegetables ahead of time, as opposed to layering while we're going, it just makes everything come together a little bit better here. We just add a little bit of olive oil, some salt and pepper and spice. With our fresh tomatoes, I use plum tomatoes today. I like cooking with plum tomatoes, and this was a very large zucchini, so we just kind of diced it up. I'm going to add a little bit of grated cheese to this, just because. You don't have to, it's optional, but I think it adds a nice little taste and texture, added flavor. That's done. We're just going to take a piece. There's no science to this, it's just a matter of getting the right shape to it. It's very helpful to keep the steaming process. I just folded the piece of parchment paper in half. Now we are going to cut this into a heart shape, and I'll show you why. You don't have to, I've seen it done other ways, but this way is my favorite. We have a nice crease right here. Again, we're using haddock. This is it's local fish. This is what the haddock looks like with the skin on. It's a nice white, delicate fish. You could also use flounder. Flounder is a little bit thinner, so I would fold it in half. You want it to be about a ½ inch thick like this. So you could use salmon. I've done dishes with shrimp, but let's just finish up with the haddock and see where it's going to take us. I'm going to take the two little captain's cuts here. They're on the larger side, so this together would be about a ½ pound. That's a very large serving for one person. But I just want to show you the technique with all of this. Haddock is skin side down. I'm going to season the haddock, just a teeny sprinkle because we have seasoning here. Like I said, every layer I like to add a little something. Another little splash of olive oil here. That's plenty. Now I'm going to go ahead and add our zucchini and tomatoes. Again, this has some grated cheese, some spices. Just our house spice with onion, garlic, parsley, salt, pepper. You're not going to believe how simple this is. I'm going to take some basil, add some basil leaves. I love basil and tomato together. I'm going to add a few more tomatoes. You need a little bit of liquid in here. We don't want too much liquid so that the paper doesn't remain intact. If it's too soggy, it will fall apart. So we're just going to add a little bit of white wine. You could use just water if you wanted, or chicken broth. I love cooking with white wine with my fish. There's a sprinkle of that. And just for some added flavor, I'm going to add a little cube of butter. Now here's the technique. It's not perfect, doesn't have to be. You start, we're going to make little hearts like this. We're going to fold it. So you take each corner and crimp them. You overlay the one before. Your fingers are a little wet, that's even better. It'll help the paper to stay together.
I'm flying high, but I've got a feeling I'm falling.
A good test, what you don't want to do is cut it open to test the fish. But if you take a skewer or a solid toothpick and you go through and there's no resistance to the fish, then it should be done well. Before we started, I had a few extra minutes, so I actually put together a salmon, which I wanted to show you as well. So let me test the salmon. That feels good as well. So for serving, if you haven't done this before, you could, if you wanted it to look differently, you could take it out of the parchment and put it onto a plate. Just don't forget the delicious juices in here. That's the advantage of cooking in the parchment paper. What happens is it steams, so your fish is going to be so moist you've probably never had anything like it if you haven't had it before. We are going to serve these right in the pouches. So you had about 10 minutes while this was cooking, so you could have whipped up a little salad, or I like with this, I like just some boiled red potatoes, some brown rice, or some buttered noodles, and your dinner is pretty much made. Dish number 1. So you can get a close-up view of this. This was the haddock with a little white wine, zucchini, tomatoes, some spices, a pat of butter on the top, just a little bit. It all steamed nicely. You can see the vegetables are cooked perfectly. There's a little basil, fresh basil on top. So we're going to dig into that in a minute, but here's another surprise for you. Again, I talked about the options are limitless with the vegetables. What you need to be conscious of is the texture of the vegetable and the way that they're cut. What we have here, I wish you could smell this. This is salmon. Salmon with some shredded cabbage and some carrots. That's our coleslaw mix. I added a little bit of white wine, some lemon, and the secret spice in this one is a little bit of dill. So we're going to give them a try and see how they are. Again, 10 minutes and this is your dinner. Let's try this haddock first. This is the haddock with the zucchini, tomatoes, a little bit of spices, and the secret that we put in here was a little bit of grated cheese. So this broth would be nice with just some noodles next to it, or on its own. It should be nice and moist. Have you ever had fish this moist? That's why if you transfer it from here to a plate, be sure you reserve the broth. Yeah.
Oh, this smells wonderful.
Okay, this smells wonderful because of a little bit of butter. That is fresh dill. It's dill weed that I dry and mince myself. We use that in some of our soups or whatever. But I think dill, cabbage, and carrots and the white wine are a great match with the salmon. So let's give it a try. I can imagine them eating this over in Ireland, can't you? The cabbage. Fresh, delicious, simple. Thank you for joining us in episode 7 of Cooking with Jean. We made some terrific haddock in parchment with some fresh vegetables. We also have a surprise dish that I created with salmon, with cabbage, dill, and some shredded carrots, which came out really, really nice. Again, 10 minutes in the oven, and you will be so happy that you gave these recipes a shot. But feel free to play with your vegetables and play with your fish. You'll have great fun with it. Stay tuned for next week, episode 8. We'll have some great surprises cooking up for you. Thank you.
I used to